was like ahead of schedule. Me? I don't think so. Hey, welcome to my video. If you're from my Instagram, I love you. And if you're not from my Instagram, love you all the same. Welcome to another Invisalign update. So this is a series on my channel where I share my Invisalign journey with you, but I am by no means a dentist, an orthodontist, or a specialist of any kind. So obviously don't take any of this as advice. And if you need professional help, consult a professional, not a random girl on the internet. I'm just here to share my experience with you. And also, if you are not caught up, I think you should do so right here. Just because otherwise, I think you might be a little confused. But if you are and you want to hear the update that I have for you today, then please keep watching. So last time I saw you, I updated you on my experience with Invisalign hooks, the elastics, and also a little bit about orthodontic wax. So let's tackle that first. When it comes to the wax, I used it for about a week like I said I was going to. Honestly, if we're gonna be really real here today, girl, I used it religiously for about 3-4 days. Now, what that means for me is that if I had the wax on and then some of it fell out, or I accidentally ate a piece of it, I immediately ran to the bathroom and reapplied more, just cause I really wanted to be super cautious. I didn't want to harm the inside of my mouth in any way. I didn't want to deal with sores or anything of the sort. So I was really staying on top of it for about 3 to 4 days. Now I did wear the wax for about 7 days total, but honestly, for the last 3 or 4 days, I really didn't run and replace the wax immediately, and everything ended up fine. I did not harm the inside of my mouth at all, which is great. I love that for me. Now for the second part of that update, and I feel like to better explain what happened here, I need to tell you a little bit about the arrangement going down in my mouth presently. That honestly, now that I said it out loud, sounds like a weird sentence, and I feel like I could have formulated that better, but you know me, I blab a lot on this channel, and many of the things I say are not grammatically correct, so we're gonna move on. So for this to make sense, I have to explain to you a little bit about the hooks that I attach my Invisalign elastics to. So presently, I have 8 hooks in my mouth, okay? Which altogether I attach 4 elastics to. So just so you could visualize it better, I have about 3 hooks on this side, which is irrelevant for this part of the story, and I have 5 hooks on this side. And on that side, I have 1 elastic that I attach to 3 hooks. So it sort of just looks like a triangle. Don't you love how I just drew a triangle in the air for you like you're an idiot and you don't know what a triangle looks like? Okay, girl. I need to calm down and like not be so expressive with my hands all the time, but that's never gonna happen. I feel like you really don't see that elastic much because it's kind of far back, and I'm also not gonna open up my mouth for you and get really close. I feel like that's a little bit TMI, but just know that I attach elastic to 3 hooks in my mouth and it looks like a triangle. Why am I telling you this? Of course I'm telling you this because something went wrong. Everything was fine. I had just started getting used to all these elastics and I became a pro at attaching them quickly. I don't even need a mirror for it at this point. And then one day I noticed that the elastic that attaches to the 3 hooks started sort of randomly popping off. And sometimes it would happen when I was speaking. Other times, if I yawned or coughed, it would just randomly pop out of my mouth. And at first, I didn't really think anything of it because, you know, it snapped off and I just put it right back. So I thought everything was fine. But then I started noticing that it started also snapping off while I was asleep. Now, this is a problem because when you're wearing your elastics, you're supposed to wear them on both sides of your mouth at the same time, always. Like, I'm really not allowed to only wear the elastics on this side if I'm not wearing elastics on this side, because that could actually damage the whole situation. And so when I noticed that it's popping off randomly while I'm asleep and can't really do anything about it, because obviously I am deep within my REM cycle and then I wouldn't know that it popped off until I woke up and saw it, I decided that I should call my office and tell them about this, because again, that's really not supposed to happen. So I called my office, I explained everything. The receptionist basically told me that that's something that should be fixed ASAP, and literally she had me within the office that same day. And then they saw what was wrong. Of the 3 hooks, 1 specific one was the problem. The band kept snapping off of that one. And so I really wasn't sure what to expect. I thought maybe they were gonna elongate it or something. But what they ended up doing was they sort of made a little ridge in the middle of it so that the elastic had something to stick to more. And then that solved my problem. Now, I was scheduled for a regular checkup 2 weeks after this incident, and I did ended up going to that. So now we fast forward to that. I go to my regular little checkup, okay? And that's where they're supposed to look at the dental plan and then actually just be all up in your mouth and check your teeth to see how it compares to the dental plan and to tell you whether or not everything is on schedule. So every other time up until this point, whenever I did go in for a regular checkup, they'd be like, oh yeah, everything looks fine according to plan. Nothing special really. And so that's what I kind of expected going into it this time as well. However, I am here to report that we have good news on that front, which shocked me and gagged me. As it turns out, I am weeks ahead of schedule, and I really was surprised by that. And I'll get into why in a little bit. But anyway, everybody in the office was really happy for me. They told me that it's very visible that I am wearing my aligners as much as I'm supposed to, and that I'm trying to be good and stick to my dental plan. And now for a girly who is perpetually late to everything all the time, her whole life, that was a shock to the system, but a pleasant one nonetheless. I was like, ahead of schedule? Me? I don't think so. But it ended up being true, so this is what they're gonna do about that. Because of this awesome turn of events, they scheduled my next regular checkup a little bit earlier than they normally would. I believe that my next checkup is in around a month, and they told me when I come in for it, they're actually gonna do another scan of my teeth, which wasn't planned. And then based on that scan, they're gonna talk it over with the head orthodontist and see if I may be eligible for finishing this round of Invisalign aligners earlier than predicted. Or I think maybe a better word would be earlier than projected. Okay, I am a mess today, but you're gonna ignore that because you're a really kind person. So if you don't know, I am now on my third set of aligners, and I was supposed to finish it somewhere around November, I believe, because I was scheduled to wear 20 aligners within this set. And now by the time you're watching this, I am on my fourth aligner because at this point I'm switching them out every 2 weeks. So I was supposed to get to number 20, but they're gonna consult each other and see based on next month's scan if that's still gonna be a necessity. Now, honestly, I am not trying to get myself too excited. Like, would it be nice if I could finish this a little bit earlier than anticipated? Yes, obviously I would love that, but I'm not trying to get too excited for it if they end up deciding that I'm actually gonna need to finish out all 20 of the aligners. And also, you know what, I'm gonna be honest, this whole journey thus far has been way less dramatic, way less painful, and way easier than I anticipated it and built it up in my head going into this whole process. And I feel like that's something I say in every one of these videos, but it really is true. And so because of that, I really wouldn't mind wearing them until October or November or whenever. It really wouldn't be that big of a deal, but would I like to finish early? Of course. So stay tuned for next month and the big update coming up on that. But now I just want to touch on how I feel about my progress and why it did end up surprising me that I was ahead of schedule. So I feel like when I was on my first set of aligners, that's when the most drastic changes happened. And I also feel like I could notice them every few days or every week at least, and they really weren't small changes. The movements that my teeth were doing at the time were very dramatic, and so I feel like every few days I'd look in a mirror and be like, oh, my smile is already so different. But then by the time I went on to my second set of aligners, I was noticing changes happen a little bit slower and less dramatic, and I spoke about that in one of these previous videos. I basically touched on how at that point I really wasn't able to view that many changes unless I looked at an old video or photo of myself, and then I was like, oh no, actually it did change a lot and everything moved around again. But it wasn't so apparent to me in the mirror. And then now moving on to this third set, and like I said, I am on aligner number 4 at this point, which means that I have been on set number 3 for 8 weeks. And in those 8 weeks, I feel like I haven't noticed much of a change personally at all. Now, I will say, prior to filming this portion of the video, I did actually go back to my old videos when I was still on set number 2, and actually there is a visible change, but I feel like it's developing very slowly and it's kind of hard to tell. And obviously I got other things to do, girl. I'm not like sitting around every day looking at old pictures and videos of myself. But if you're on this journey too and you feel a little disheartened about your progress, do go back and look at old photos of yourself. I promise you, you're gonna notice notice a difference. It's just not something that's noticeable in a mirror on a day-to-day basis. Well, at least that's my experience with it, okay? But honestly, it did end up happening that within these 8 weeks, my teeth shifted quite a bit to the point where, like I said, I'm now weeks ahead of schedule, which is great. We'll see what happens with that whole ordeal. One thing I want to say though, when I was at my appointment, they said, "Oh, how's the hook? The one that we fixed 2 weeks ago." And I said, "Oh, it's great. No issues here." Guess what happened? And I am not kidding you. That same night, the elastic that I attach on that hook popped off again. And I swear, I was like, if I have to go back to the office again for them to fix this again, I'm gonna be so annoyed. But I don't know if that was a one-off type of situation or if the specific elastic that I was wearing that day just didn't want to cooperate or whatever. But it only happened that one night and then never again. And at this point, it's been about 8 days since my checkup. So fingers crossed, here I am hoping that all the hooks do what they need to do and that I don't need to go back again for them to fix anything again. Obviously, if it happens again and if it is necessary, I'm gonna go. But I have to complain to you. You know, I feel like we're girls. I feel like you get it. So this is me just venting a little bit. But anyway, that's what's new within my journey. I will update you again though when I find out when this journey is gonna actually end and whether or not we're gonna be sticking it out to the end of the year or we're gonna finish early. I don't know. But as soon as I find out, I will let you know. One more thing before I go though, I got this aligner foam as a gift from one of my beautiful, amazing friends who is also on her Invisalign journey at the same time. And she tried this foam and she told me that it's really good, so she bought me one. So I am gonna start using that and I'm just gonna let you know in the next update as well how that's going. It's really just supposed to protect your teeth, I guess, and also just make the whole situation in your mouth feel a little bit cleaner because honestly, and that's another thing, side note, that I've noticed, not switching your aligners for 2 weeks is kind of pushing it. And I try my very, very best to be on top of hygiene, but 2 weeks of wearing something for 20 to 22 hours a day. Yeah, at around day 10, I'm going, I can't wait to switch these out because it does get a little funky, I'm not gonna lie. Like the aligners get a little nasty. So I'm hoping this foam is gonna help with that as well. But as promised, I will let you know. And that marks the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far, I hope you get visited by the tooth fairy, even if you're an adult, okay? I would love for somebody to visit me and leave me $1 under my pillow, okay? But if you liked this video, then please consider liking, commenting, maybe even subscribing, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.